If you're a woman in corporate America, you already know that people love to give you unsolicited advice. The question is, how do you sort through what's true and valuable versus what's just somebody's opinion? I've been a hiring manager for over 25 years across multiple industries, including law, politics, and tech. And today I'm sharing the advice that backfired spectacularly, so you don't have to experience the same. If you're new to my channel, hi and welcome. I'm Kristen. I'm a former attorney and tech exec turned executive career coach. I help mid to senior level corporate women get promoted and transition into work they love. So the number one advice that I have received that has backfired spectacularly is to learn to play golf or learn about a sport so I can talk about it to my male colleagues at the water cooler. Now, maybe this information seems a little bit dated, and if you are into sports, by all means, completely lean into that. But this is a part of a bigger issue and a bigger form of bias known as likable versus competent, which you may have heard of. The crux of the issue is that if women show behaviors that are deemed masculine, they will not be liked. However, the main part of this hellscape is the fact that the behaviors that are considered masculine are also the behaviors that make somebody competent in the workplace. Things such as speaking directly, holding somebody accountable, or even interrupting others in a meeting when they get off track so that you can stay on time. And this is a decades-long study that has been proven several times at the Columbia School of Business with a little model you might have heard of called the Heidi versus Howard study. Heidi Rosen is a real-life entrepreneur and venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. What happened at Columbia Business School is they wrote up a synopsis of her life and her business experience and gave it to MBA candidates. But for half of the candidates, they changed the name Heidi to the name Howard. And then they asked the candidates, what is your perception of this individual? So for those who reviewed Howard, they thought he was a fantastic guy, a whiz at business. They would love to work with him and they would love to work for him. Heidi, as you may have predicted, was a bitch. Incredibly arrogant, they would not want to work with her, and they would not want to work for her. And underneath that summary was this presumption that Heidi was perceived to be too masculine, too direct, too bossy, and just unappealing in the way a woman should be. This double standard allows men to be both likable and competent, while women can be one or the other. And sports is just yet another example of the overly masculine behaviors that women are scolded for in the workplace. So while this information can be a little bit defeating, the bottom line is if you understand this, you won't put yourself in a no-win situation to begin with. By leaning into what you truly like, what appeals to you, and sharing that with people you trust in the workplace, that allows you to show up in a genuine and transparent manner. And being sincerely confident in who you are will translate to those who matter. Number 2, work hard and you'll be rewarded and or promoted. So as a descendant of German immigrants, I can tell you that hard work is a cornerstone in how we conduct ourselves. In fact, I think it's a cornerstone in how all Americans conduct themselves. Americans work harder and longer hours than any other developed nation, and we're certainly not happier for it. It's estimated that about 1 million people are absent every day due to workplace illness that is a byproduct of stress, and about $300 billion are lost annually because of stress in the workplace. And my humble opinion is that I believe it is a combination of a lack of job security and social safety nets that is keeping us in this bind. So the United States is one of the only developed countries in the world with at-will employment, meaning that any employer, unless you live in the state of Montana, can fire you at any time for any reason. There is no such thing as job security. But in every other developed nation, across Europe, in Japan, in Australia, there are employment contracts, which many times favor the employee and give them a sense of security. So they have to be put on notice and they have to receive cause if they are terminated. And of course, the minimum notice period and other factors vary by country. But even when a person is let go in those other developed nations, their health insurance is not tied to their job. The unemployment benefits are far more robust, and the overall protections are much greater than in the United States. And just to pile on, minimum vacation in most countries is 20 days. Here we're lucky if we get half that. And this multi-tiered cake leads to burnout, stress, overwork, and death at a much earlier age than in other developed nations. And the truth behind all these promises of work hard and get promoted is that is rarely the case. Obviously, you have to have minimum productivity to remain in the workplace, but in my tenure and my experience, it's all about relationships. And while in the best companies, that does mean that individuals who are empathetic and people-centered are going to get promoted, in some of the worst companies, that means that those who kiss up and coddle to the boss are the ones that get promoted. And I'm sure everyone watching watching this has at least 10 war stories of when they saw someone use FaceTime to get promoted or kissing up to get promoted. It's not a new story in corporate America. But the silver lining to take away from all of this is that your fate probably won't be different if you close your laptop at 5 p.m. versus 6 p.m. And if you know you're somebody who's not willing to play the game, then you should feel free to take your vacation time. Make sure you go to the doctor's appointments and don't miss your kid's Little League game either. Make yourself happy because you are here to work to live, not live to work. Number 3, you need to wait your turn and have more tenure before you're promoted. So this goes to the deeper issue of loyalty. And I know for myself, my parents taught me that I was to be loyal to a company, be there 40 years, earn my gold watch and my pension, and be on my way. But the truth is that everything has changed and there are no pensions and no gold watches. The last 2 years have certainly proved that. But more to the point, if you stay at a company and you receive an annual increase, it's likely to be on average, according to the data, 4 to 6%. Versus if you are to jump ship and leave for another company, the increase is more on average around 10 to 20%. I know even at my old company, which was a good company to work for, if you were promoted, the maximum increase you could receive was 15%. And that's with more responsibility, more accountability, and more oversight. So job hopping is something that we all need to consider. And I say this, yes, still knowing that it is an employer's market, but that is shifting. So the best thing that you can do is to keep your resume current and keep networking. And when I say networking, I want you to think about it as reciprocal relationships where you're literally forming bonds rather than something that is transactional. That will allow people to keep you at the front of mind because they know, like, and trust you so that when an opportunity that is right for you comes along, you are their first call. And number 4, entrepreneurship is risky. Now, this one I take very personally, and I've had clients even this year say, oh, I could never go out on my own, Kristen. It just seems like I'd be, floating on an island all by myself. And unfortunately, because of all we endure in corporate America, I think one of the riskier things we can do is put our eggs in that basket. I was at the same company for 10 years and never got promoted. Sure, I came close a few times. I made it to the final round, but it was very much always a bridesmaid and never a bride. It was only after I decided to bet on myself and start my own company that I was able to re-enter corporate America and make that critical move from manager to director into a leadership role. Plus, as we've seen for the last couple of years, there is no such thing as being loyal to employees. Because you can be laid off at a moment's notice, it is incredibly important to lean into any skill set you have so you can set up shop if you need it. And if you feel like you might not want to do the same type of work that you're doing in corporate America, I do recommend looking at avenues that can create a social safety net for yourself. Ideas such as real estate or investing in the stock market, but understand your own finances and what works and how investing can help you get ahead if you haven't already. And if you do have something you love, why not get a certification? For example, I love weightlifting and I love yoga, and I'm certified as a personal trainer and I'm certified as a yoga instructor. Now, granted, I'm not going to get rich or replace my corporate salary with that. But if I need a bridge job or I want to take time out of the marketplace and do something that I love for a while, I have the ability to do it. And yeah, I don't like the idea of having to monetize our hobbies, but I do like the idea of making sure that we are safe and making sure that we are financially secure, because we know that that's not going to be the case in a corporate setting. Now, sometimes real talk is difficult to hear, but I'm one of those individuals that rather give you all the information and then allow you to make the best decision rather than keep you in the dark as to what's happening. And I always try to do it in a kind, productive way. And that's the type of community I'm attempting to curate. People who are kind, people who have each other's back and can help us navigate the landscape in corporate America. If that sounds like a community you would like to be a part of, I would love if you would share, like, and subscribe. I come out with new videos each week, and until then, take care.